time for the Daily Planet podcast show. So sit back, relax, and give us a go. Scott and Matt and maybe a guest have undertaken an epic pod quest. We're gonna ramble on about movies and books and television and directors and film festivals and this really long list of stuff that I know nothing about, but they gave it to me and they really wanted me to read through it. And that's all I can really say about it, but it's gonna be great. Okay, start the show.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Planet Podcast, your weekly podcast for all things movies, TV, books, and anything else we feel like talking about. My name is Scott Daly and I am your host, and I'm joined, once again, by my co-host, Matt Freeman. Matt, welcome back.
Well, thanks, Scott. Glad to be back.
You were gone?
I think today, I was gone. I was gone for, three podcasts?
Well, here's the thing. It was actually only two podcasts. Well, no, it was only two podcasts because we recorded a podcast last week with Michael, who was our guest this week. Hi, Michael.
Michael.
Oh my God.
See, guys, he's doing a Pokemon thing because that's what we're talking about today.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Alternate reality video games is actually what we cover now exclusively.
Yeah, that's our new mainstay as a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was saying, we recorded a podcast last week about the world's best disaster movie with Michael and our good fill-in host James Gentry. And sadly, something happened with the audio in that podcast, and it only recorded mine and not the other people's.
I was wondering what happened to that.
Yeah, so no one will ever know.
That was fucking quality.
It was a really good podcast.
Sounds like that was just a disaster.
Oh my God, we're gonna lose some subscribers for that.
Yep.
It was a really good podcast, and there was drama because we were voting, and then Gentry changed everything up. It was
He played the game of votes.
he did, and you know when you play the game of votes, you win or you don't win.
Yeah.
Mm.
Cloverfield didn't win.
No, neither did Armageddon.
Hmm.
Independence Day apparently is the best disaster movie.
It's not.
It's not.
Well, luckily all the audio was lost, so I guess you guys
What
get to
an
save
unfortunate coincidence.
Yeah,
we could
right.
we could just do that podcast again, and no
Yeah.
one would ever know except that we just talked about it on air.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Or we could just delete all this too, I guess.
Yeah, that takes too much time.
That's true.
Anyway, so we are here to talk about Pokemon. And why are we here to talk about Pokemon, Matt? What happened last week that changed the world?
Well, the new Pokemon game, I suppose you would call it, Pokemon Go for smartphones, came out and added about $7 billion of value to Nintendo in within like a day. And everyone is talking about it. Everyone on Facebook is talking about it, even people who I'm sure never played Pokemon. I never played Pokemon, incidentally. I'll get that right out there. I never played Pokemon. My brother played Pokemon. Unfortunately, he can't be here. I learned a lot about Pokemon via osmosis from him, and I watched the cartoon because that's what you do when you're in grade school and so forth.
Try high school, Matt.
High school, yeah, that's what you do when you're in high school. Okay.
Hey, to be fair, when those games came out, we were in middle school.
We were in like 8th grade.
Yeah, it's still middle school, Michael. It's not embarrassing.
It's cool to watch cartoons, and I didn't watch anything but cartoons until like sophomore year of college.
Well, now we are cool. I mean, this is the thing: is now Marvel and Star Wars and Pokemon are like the biggest, most popular, cool things for everyone.
It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's actually a pretty awesome time to be alive. Like I was looking at Netflix like science fiction recommendations the other day, and apparently they're making like 5 new science fiction series every year now, and they'd maybe like make one every 4 years in the 90s.
Speaking of, this is a complete tangent, but did you know that Death Note thing you made me watch is one of the most viewed things on Netflix?
Is it?
Yeah. It's crazy.
It deserves to be.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, we're here to talk about Pokemon Go, and we're going to talk about the origin of this thing because, little known fact, Michael and I became friends because freshman year in high school, we both really liked Pokemon.
It's true. We would draw Pokemon on the board of our biology classroom.
Well, you would draw. I couldn't draw, so I would watch you draw.
Oh, I remember you being a part of it somehow.
I would probably write the names.
Oh, yeah. That's true. No one could read my handwriting, so together we were the perfect team.
So yeah, we're gonna break down why Pokemon is popular to begin with, why we think this game is so freaking popular, and what it means for like the future of gaming. Because I think this is an interesting time. But we're gonna get into all that in a second. I wanted to quickly go through some news with you guys, especially you, Matt, because do you even know what's going on in the world anymore? You've been gone for so long.
I mean, I certainly haven't been keeping my finger on the pulse of the digital world, so hit me up.
Matt actually only comes into existence when he's like plugged into the podcast.
That's true. That is true.
He's actually a bodiless artificial intelligence.
I mean, it's true, or at least I wish it were.
All right, AI Matt. Did you know that there's a new Ghostbusters movie coming out this weekend? I
did know that. Actually, no, I thought it had already come out. That's how out of the loop I am.
Well, here's the thing. That movie has a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, and all the people who are going crazy about them remaking Ghostbusters and hiring an all-female cast to be Ghostbusters are now going crazy because the reviewers must be biased and are just reviewing it because it's an all-female cast and it can't be a good movie, and they're going crazy and they're pummeling IMDb with negative reviews even though the movie hasn't come out yet and they can't have seen it yet. And the whole thing is insane. Who knew that the most political movie of the summer of 2016 would be Ghostbusters?
Yeah, it is kind of disappointing.
So
I mean, yeah, I wonder. I almost wonder if it's like real. Like if I were head of marketing for Ghostbusters, I would love this. This is great.
Yeah,
it's true.
But I think it is real because it's the most downvoted trailer in the history of YouTube. I mean, like it's insane. There are people out there who hate it, and I come at this from a very interesting perspective because I love the original Ghostbusters. I watched my VCR recording of that movie so many times that the tape broke. Like, I can quote almost this entire movie. Like, it was a huge part of my childhood, and I absolutely love it. But I also understand that Ghostbusters isn't really a franchise. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but it had one good movie. Ghostbusters 2 was not a good movie. It had a cartoon in the 90s that was popular for kids, and that's really it. I mean...
Yeah, and Ghostbusters 1 was debatably a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. I think it's great, but I also recognize that 90% of my feelings on it is complete nostalgia.
Right.
And I can't look at it objectively ever.
It's pretty hokey, and it's like, it doesn't take itself seriously, so why is everyone taking it so seriously?
Well, that's the crazy part, is there's all these people saying Ghostbusters was not a comedy. Ghostbusters was a scary movie. It's like, maybe when you were 5 years old and you were scared of shit like this, but it was absolutely a comedy.
Yeah, there's not even any scary moment in it.
Yeah.
Like seriously. Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of Back to the Future, where it is like, it's a great movie on lots of levels. But it's also very silly, and you can't. It's ridiculous that, I mean, I don't remember who it was who said this, but like, I don't know why you would pick this movie as your hill to die on.
That was actually me. I tweeted that.
That's wow. That's amazing, because I've had that phrase stuck in my head ever since you tweeted that. So congratulations.
I impact someone. I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so strange, and like, I don't want to jump right to sexism because I think that's stupid. But at the same time, like, there have been so many remade properties from the 80s, and none of them have drawn the ire and hate that this movie has drawn. So like, on some level, you have to be like, is it just because they're chicks? I mean, is that really the reason?
I think probably. I mean, I think it's tapping into the same insane zeitgeist as like the Sad Puppies and so forth, which a long time fans of Daily Planet will recall we accidentally intersected with when I published an article that was insufficiently anti-feminist for their tastes, and they all had something negative to say about it, which was fun.
It got us a lot of views.
Got us a lot of views, yeah. So you know, come at us, Sad Puppies.
I'm sure that's part of it, but I think another part of it is probably just the, like, people have this huge nostalgia for it, and they changed it.
Yeah, and I get that, and like, so don't see it. Like, this movie existing does not hurt the existence of Ghostbusters. Like that movie will still be there, and you can watch it and enjoy it.
Yeah, but like if you were, if I can imagine if I was as big of a Ghostbusters fan as I am like a Star Wars fan, like I might still be scared of them ruining it because like the fact that they made the prequels shouldn't ruin the fact that the originals are still good movies, but it still pisses me off that they were made.
It did sort of ruin George Lucas for me.
It did. George Lucas.
Well, yeah, but this is not the same director. This is not the same writers. This is a completely different thing. I get your point, and my response to those people would be grow up, because like the people that are mad about this are people our age, are 30-year-old people who were kids when Ghostbusters came out.
Right.
I mean, so acting like this is absurd. It's ridiculous.
It is absurd. I'm just trying to maybe understand them a little more.
I really think part of it is not just that they're females in these roles. I think by casting women in these roles and by making a big deal about it, it's almost like declaring itself feminist. And I think that's what pisses people off about it. It's like we are doing this very intentionally. We are very intentionally gender swapping these roles to declare this a feminist movie. And I think that's what pisses people off. And that's still sexist. I'm sorry, people out there who say it's not. It's still sexist to have that reaction. But I don't think that when they claim it's not because they're girls, it's because they felt the need to make them girls, which is, I don't know. I'm glad that the movie is, I guess, kind of good. I mean, I'm going to see it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll probably review it for the site because I have such a passionate reaction to the first film, and I'm interested to see what it does. But
yeah, I've heard that it's funny, so that's all I kind of wanted of it.
I mean, I love all those actresses. I think they're very funny women. So, and Paul Feig is a great director who I enjoy a lot. So yeah, I mean, it has a recipe to be good. They're absolutely right that the trailers were not that great for the film, but sometimes that's the way trailers are, you know.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on. Matt, do you remember at the beginning of the summer when we declared Captain America: Civil War would win the summer?
Yes.
We were wrong.
Yes.
This past year, Finding Dory has passed Captain America: Civil War to be the highest-grossing domestic movie of the summer and of the year. It is now also the highest-grossing Pixar movie domestically ever.
Really?
Yeah. So my question is, why do we think this happened? Because I saw this movie and it's okay. It's not bad. It's not that good. Is it just because this summer sucks so much? So if you want to see a good movie, there's not too many choices.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, not that I've gone to see anything recently, but like every time I drive by the movie kiosk kind of billboard on my way to work, I look at the movies and I'm always like, well, that all looks like garbage, so I'm not missing anything. And
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm probably unusually aware of what's out anyway, just because we do this blog and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's like that. That's probably one of the only movies that I would have even gone to see, even if I were in a place where I could go see a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And then there's also the fact that it's the second Pixar movie in the series. So you've like anybody who likes Finding Nemo, and anybody with kids who's like, oh, Finding Nemo, that was a good kids movie, that they're all like automatically going to go see it almost.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about last week in the deleted scenes how all of the movies this summer have been so crap. And I think you're right. And especially in terms of kids movies, that like so few kids movies come out that like everyone with kids goes to see this one.
Yeah. It's really surprising to me how bad these movies are doing. I'm not surprised that the movies are bad. Like, I'm not surprised Tarzan is a bad movie. I'm not surprised Independence Day is a bad movie. But I'm surprised at how not well they are performing. Like,
I hope this is because people are realizing that there was a time when making movies with like familiar source material was like guaranteed to at least break even, because people are like, oh, I liked that thing, I'm going to have to see this new movie. But they've done it so much and they've generally been so bad. I'm hoping people are catching on and like not seeing things based on material they like, because they can like kind of guess the movie's not going to be good. And hopefully studios will stop making these movies now.
I hope you're right. I do think that we could read this as the start of a trend in that direction, because if you look at the big blockbuster movies and how much, and their Rotten Tomatoes scores from last year, and two, their box office numbers, this is one of the worst summers in a long, long time. So I really do hope that this is the start of a trend and people are rejecting stuff and we won't have more Jurassic Worlds that are like the fifth highest grossing movie ever, fourth I think. I mean, Matt, we looked at Independence Day and we said in our summer movie preview that movie had the potential to be another Jurassic World, and it didn't happen in spectacular fashion.
Yeah,
like the movie, I mean, it made a lot of money, but for its budget, it bombed. So
yeah. This is really highlighting that I don't have a very accurate model of why things are going to be successful. We need to get a machine learning system going so that we can predict these things more
I
accurately.
mean, every one of the sequels this year underperformed, basically. Every single one.
Yeah, and thank God, because so tired of sequels.
Right, and it makes me wonder, like, you know, the Transformers movies are movies that come out, and no matter what, they break $1 billion. I'm really curious to see what the next Transformers movie does, and if this is really a trend of things changing, or this was just a fluke of a summer, and then Transformers: The Last Night or whatever is going to make another $1 billion, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think. Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna hypothesize about like the economy, but I read too many conflicting things about the economy. Like, we're coming out of the recession, but people's actual disposable income is not increasing, and like that could kind of explain it to me. Like, I don't know. It seems just kind of taking the temperature of the country. I feel like people can't really justify dropping, $15 a person on tickets every weekend anymore. Even a few years ago, the movies were cheaper and people had more disposable income and didn't have to like ration so much.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know how much of that plays into it though.
But we are seeing the moderate success of some lower budget movies. The Shallows, the shark movie that I think cost a couple $1 million to make, is doing really well, comparatively. So I don't know. I think you're right, Michael. Maybe we've just reached a point of oversaturation, and viewers are finally like, I've just had enough of this. I don't care about these sequels. I don't want to see them anymore. I want to go see something else at the movies.
Yeah,
and
I hope that's the case.
Yeah, me too. But I also hope I want good blockbusters too. Like, I mean, last year we had Mad Max. We don't have a Mad Max this year. We don't have anything comparable.
Mad Max was good, but it didn't have to be Mad Max. Like, that movie could have been new material. Like, there was nothing tying it to Mad Max except that it was a kind of deserty post-apocalyptic world.
I mean, thematically, I think a lot tied. I don't know. And
yeah, but I feel like that's a very different sort of sequel, because most of these things have been remakes.
No, you're absolutely right. I barely even call it a sequel.
Yeah.
It is very much its own thing.
And sequels, in quotes, are fine as long as they have their own self-contained thing, like that movie did. It's just like when they continue stuff for no reason, or when they remake things for no reason without like having any vision in mind, that it's a terrible movie.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's just full of callbacks and stuff you like already know is going to be stupid. Like when they put it in the trailer, when like the trailer is just jammed with callbacks to the old movie, you're like, well, I can already tell that you're putting no effort into this. You're actually advertising that you're putting no effort into this movie.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, my last news item for the week. Quentin Tarantino recently affirmed that he is still going to definitely retire from film after his 10th movie. So
no.
But then I read that he might unretire at a later point.
He said maybe when I'm 75 years old, I'll have a new story to tell. So he's being Quentin Tarantino, but
I mean,
he also has said just because he retires from film, he'll write books or write plays, or he's not just going to stop creating. So
I don't think those will be as good. I think it's his film style that is the best part about him, not his like stories.
I think you're right. I mean, and he loves film, and that shows very much through his movies. So I don't know. Maybe we have 2 more movies though. That's it.
The Hateful Eight was like my favorite of his movies though, so he's definitely not like over the hill in terms of making good movies.
No, but I think he always says it's because he doesn't want to retire. Like, he doesn't want to be one of those directors that's well into their 70s making really crappy movies. So he wants to go out on a high note. So I guess I don't know. I think he's probably going to reverse his opinion on this. I mean, he changes his mind a lot. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
the script for Hateful Eight leaked, and he was so mad about it. He was like, "I'm done. I'm not making this movie." And then he decided to do it anyway. So,
He's clearly a very passionate man.
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He seems too hot-headed to make long-term decisions like this that you can actually believe.
Yeah. So hopefully we will have more than 2 movies left, because I can't imagine living in a time when we are not in between Quentin Tarantino movie releases. I would be so sad.
I agree.
But on the other side of that coin, I'm very interested to see if he's really got 2 movies left. Like, don't you think he's going to go all out with his 10th movie? Like, he's going to try to...
I don't know. I don't know what all out would be for him. I mean, he pretty much always goes all out.
That's true. All right, so that's it for the news this week. Some interesting stuff. We'll have some more next week. We'll see how Ghostbusters does. I'm very interested to see how that does financially. See if the Ghost Bros stopped it. But let's move into our main topic, which is Pokemon. Pokemon. What is the actual correct way to pronounce that word?
I think in the television show they call it Pokemon.
Well, there you go. So, Michael, you and I started playing this game before we even knew each other, and we became friends over this game. Do you want to, for the uninitiated out there, do a quick summary of what Pokemon is?
Pokemon is a game where you are a young lad who becomes a Pokemon trainer, and you venture out into the world. You collect different little monsters called Pokemon who are of different elements. There's a very simple battle system where you fight Pokemon against other Pokemon, and some element. It's a rock, paper, scissors sort of system where fire Pokemon are weak to water and so forth. And you kind of catch all the Pokemon you can, and you have to beat a Pokemon gym leader of each element type, and there's usually 8. And then you beat the like grand champion Pokemon trainers, which is like 4 elite guys, and then you win the game. And pretty much all the Pokemon games follow this formula.
Yeah, and the big difference has been each new game they've introduced new Pokemon, right? It started with
new
150.
Pokemon, and usually slightly tweaked mechanics, and maybe a new system or something, like you can battle 2 Pokemon at the same time or something like that.
Yeah. So this has been a phenomenon basically since it was released, but it was a phenomenon that was very different from the one that we're experiencing now, in that this was always very focused towards children. Kids played this game. Kids collected the trading card games. Kids watched the cartoon. What we're seeing now is this weird kind of seismic shift in this. Like, I think both Nintendo and I can't remember the name of the company that set this up. They were a spinoff from Google. They were the ones that actually created the game. I should have looked this up before we started, but Pokemon Go is the, as we said, is the new app game that allows you to go out into the world, our real world, and catch Pokemon. And this game has blown up. Do you guys know it has more daily active users than the Twitter app?
Wow.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I don't want to jump ahead, but like the game has tons of problems, and I'm actually finding it extremely hard to get into. Can we talk about that for a second, Scott?
Yeah, sure.
Like it's, I never played any Pokemon games before, so, but I've also heard that this one isn't like the other Pokemon games, but it's actually kind of shocking to me, because I'm like, this game is not really that fun. Like, you end up unless you're like already going to go for a walk or whatever. Maybe it's just because I'm sort of tethered to specific locations and I can't just be like, well, I'm going for a 2-hour walk. But like I just sort of am able to like snag Pokemon that happen to wander by wherever I am, and it's very slow. And maybe it'll get more fun after I like pass certain level thresholds. But I'm like, how is this like the most popular game ever?
Yeah.
I mean, and the answer I think is that it is queuing into the Pokemon nostalgia, but I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna persist.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a little more than that. I guess we should explain the app from a high basic level. Pokemon Go is a cell phone app that uses GPS and a basic Google Maps map that shows your character where you actually are in the real world, and you walk around in the real world, and you can encounter Pokemon in the real world, and then it will use your camera and augmented reality to show that Pokemon sitting on your desk or out in the grass or at the park you're at, and you can throw balls at it and catch it, and then you collect them, and then you reach a certain level and you can walk to Pokemon gyms again in the real world. Like, they pick random places, like there's a burger place near my house and that's a Pokemon gym, and you can walk to them and then battle other people's Pokemon in that gym, and then keep collecting. So that's the game. It's not, you're absolutely right in that it doesn't feel like a finished game.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Michael about this before we hit record, and what it really feels like to me is they wanted to test if this was a concept that would be popular. So they threw the skeleton of a game in it. They threw the part, oh, you collect the Pokemon, let's throw some battles in, but the battles are basically spam by tapping on your screen, and the Pokemon with the higher number of combat points will always win, basically, unless there's a counter, like, to the elemental stuff, which the game doesn't even do a good job of explaining how that works.
Yeah, I don't know, because like in terms of this just being a test, I mean, they put out a trailer a while ago. I don't remember when it was now, but it was on YouTube, and it got a load of hype, and they must have known at that point that it was going to be a popular thing. And it just baffles me, like, how little work they put into the battle system, for instance, which in the original Pokemon games already exists, and they could have just literally used it. It's incredibly simple, but it does, like, work slightly.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it gets to a point where maybe they had invested a certain amount of money and they had stood up enough that there was something playable, and they just said, let's push this now and add to it later. Because it is a little ridiculous to me that trading, one of the main draws of the original game, was that you could link your Game Boy to another person's Game Boy and trade Pokemon you found and battle each other's Pokemon against each other, and there was a whole social aspect to that. That is not available in this game at all. There's people are talking about the social benefits of this game, in that you will be out walking and you will see another person playing and you will talk about the game to each other, but you can't interact with each other at all. That functionality just doesn't exist.
Right, and it's such a wasted opportunity.
Right, and I have heard them say that trading and that is one of the first things they want to add to the game after that. But it's interesting because we just said, that there's going to be that this is beating Twitter on daily active users. I don't see that lasting. I mean, there are a lot of people that are really hyped for this game, but most of them, surprisingly, are people that have never played this game before, and I don't see them sticking with it very long. I see them getting bored very quickly, and if they wanted to keep their daily active user number up, putting those kind of systems in from the beginning seems like it would have been a smart move.
Right.
So
it's just crazy, because all of these things would have taken very little effort on the software development side.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The whole bones of a combat system are there. I mean, all the stats are there already. How the turn-based battles work, all the moves are there already. It's just, everything's there, and it seems like it would be very easy. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding how the back end of this whole thing works, but it seems like it wouldn't have been hard to implement that kind of stuff.
I feel like some executive or whatever was like, no, this is a touchscreen phone game, so we have to take advantage of the touchscreen phone mechanic, which always involves like swiping or touching or poking or tapping, which I hate. Like, I always see these articles that are like by like, old like Atari game designers, and they're just like rants about how terrible all like iOS and Android games are, and they're right, because I've never found an iOS or Android game that was really like as compelling as even like Breakout or Space Invaders. Like the abstraction of like touching and swiping on the screen is just not very compelling. Yeah. And so by making the abstraction of this game be like, oh, you're throwing the Pokeball by swiping up, that's actually just maddening. I'm not like, yeah, I got it. I'm like, stupid thing, I did it correctly already. Like I don't know if you feel the same, but like I don't don't really
Yeah, I mean,
enjoy playing this game.
Well-
touchpad games in general like have always been a little bit like not perfectly responsive.
Right.
It never feels that fluid because there's always like little glitches or delays or.
And
Right.
I think there's something to that, and I think I've been playing this game since Thursday, and this is a free to play game, and I've been looking for a moment in which, like, I feel like every free to play game has a moment where they frustrate you to the point where you say, well, if I pay $2, I can get this thing and it'll make my life easier. Like, I feel like all free to play games are designed to push you towards that moment because that's how they make money.
Right.
And I've been waiting to see it in this game because when the first time I started playing, I really didn't see it. Like, the game gives you so many of the Pokeballs, and it seems so easy. It's not that hard. And then I got to the level I'm at now, which I'm about level 9 in the game. I don't even know what the level cap is in this game. I have no idea. But Pokemon are breaking out of the balls like incredibly more often than they were before. The touchscreen, like I am terrible at aiming these balls at the things. Like it's just I waste like 20 on any kind of high-powered Pokemon. Like even using the items they give you to make it easier to catch them, and I'm like, there it is. There's the moment of frustration because you're going to spend so many of these balls trying to catch these things and you're going to run out eventually and then you can't play the game anymore. So either you walk around to the little Pokestops on the map and spin the thing to get more balls, which will take forever, or you just give us $3 and suddenly you got more balls. And I was like, there it is. There's the free to play thing. And it's just the game smartly suckers you in and then kind of flips that switch as you advance through it. And I will never like free to play games for that exact reason.
Yeah. I don't know if this applies to this game, and I'm probably speaking from Mount Stupid, the point of ignorance on which I say things that make me seem really ignorant. But what I've read about freemium games like these is there's actually like a power law distribution to the money they make from people. So in other words, they don't actually make most of their money from like tens of thousands of people paying $3. They actually make most of their money from like 100 people who are just either like incredibly irresponsible or just really wealthy,
right?
Who are like, yeah, sure, $1,000 for 10,000 Pokeballs, whatever, and they just do that. And then, like if you think about it, it only takes a relatively small number of like rich idiots to do that, to make up for like thousands and thousands of normal people who would agonize and be like, should I pay the $5? I mean, I really like this game. I don't know if that's going to be true for this game. I mean, I have no way of knowing that at all.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm interested in. Their daily active user number is so high. What's their purchases look like? Like, how many people are buying stuff on this game? Is it a lot? Is it a little?
Right.
I mean, they've got such a high user base, but most of these are people that really have not invested terribly much into this game. I mean, my girlfriend downloaded and plays this game, and she's not really interested in the fighting at all. She just thinks it's fun to walk around and catch these little things that appear on the ground. And I think that's probably the majority of their user base.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're right. If there's a handful of people that are dropping hundreds of dollars on all items, and I'm sure there are some that are doing that, but I don't know. I do think it's interesting, going back to talking about the combat system and everything. The reason this game is so popular is because the majority of the users are just having fun collecting them. And that taps into something in all humans, that if there's a list of things to get, we want to get them all.
Right.
I've always, that's always worked on me.
Yeah, plus the Pokemon, especially the original 150 Pokemon, are pretty well designed to be kind of like cute.
Yeah.
And that appeals to people. Like, people used to do the little Digipets or whatever evolutions of that.
Right. But the other side of the argument then is, like, because you could argue, well, the reason they made the combat so basic and the reason they made this thing so simple is because they wanted to attract those people. And my flip side argument to that would be, well, you can have both, I think. Like, if you want the people, like I said, my girlfriend is not interested in the combat in this game basically at all. So let people have their fun collecting them, and let those people be collector people, and then let other people play the game and get into the numbers and do all the stuff they want.
And the really obsessive gamers are going to be the ones who want to get into the combat and stuff.
Right.
There's only so much enjoyment you can get out of actually there's literally like 150 enjoyments you can get out of collecting the Pokemon. So
yeah, it's very interesting. There's a couple more things I definitely wanted to touch on. The fact that this is getting people to exercise, which I think is wonderful. And I don't mean like I don't think people are like jogging, but people are going outside and walking around for hours. I went to the mall yesterday, and I shit you not, 75% of the people in the mall were just walking around playing, because the mall in Dallas has like 20 Pokestops in it, and people drop that lure thing that attracts different Pokemon to it. So people, I mean, it was nuts. It was insane. Like, I've never seen something like this before. But so I think it's a good thing that this isn't a great game, I don't think, but I like that it's successful.
Yeah, it's an awesome idea to sort of incorporate this game into the world we live in.
Yeah, if they do sort of gradually keep improving it and making it like an augmented reality Pokemon MMO, to the extent that like you see other players on the map and stuff, that could be something that has legs. And I'm looking at this stock again just because I was wondering if it had fallen any since I looked a few days ago or whenever that was, and it hasn't really fallen. And usually the market is a pretty good predictor of like, I don't know, it aggregates the opinions of lots of smart people and their reasoning. So if the stock hasn't fallen, I'm thinking maybe this game really is adding billions and billions of dollars of value to Nintendo. And if that's the case, then there must be some good reason to believe that.
Yeah. Can we talk about Nintendo for a minute? Because I think Nintendo is one of the stupidest companies in the world.
Yeah. They clung so desperately to like their nostalgic original material from the first NES. And that can only carry them so far. Like, you can only have so many Mario and Zelda games, which are just like minor evolutions of the one before it.
Right.
For people like want something new.
Yeah, and they're so clinging to the past. They've refused to get into the mobile market. This is really their first foray into it, and this wasn't even their idea. They had to be convinced that this game was a good idea by another company.
And their systems have taken all the wrong directions. Like the Wii was like for some reason very popular,
and it, by all accounts, it shouldn't have been.
There were terrible games. The controller was really unresponsive for the most part. Like, it was okay for like Wii Sports, which is what everyone played. But like it was terrible for like a Zelda game. And people like don't want that in video games. Like the PS4 and Xbox have like realized that, and they just give you like, a little bit more ergonomic or whatever normal controllers with maybe a touchpad in the middle, which is rarely used. And Nintendo has continued doing stupid things. Like they had like the tablet controllers on the Wii U, which like no one bought.
That was so awful. I mean, like, that system was terrible. It was terribly advertised. They didn't, like, everyone, calling it the Wii U made everyone think it was just an addition to the system they already had.
Yeah.
So no one bought the thing.
And there was no reason to buy it because, like, they're just like, oh, well, there's going to be, like, this weird, like, Dynasty Warriors version of Zelda on it that we put very little thought into.
Yeah, they didn't even make that. They farmed that out.
Yeah, and
we're gonna
just
have
like
a new Mario game, a new Star Fox game that we'll shoehorn our terrible controller into. And it's just like Nintendo. Why has there not been a Pokemon MMO before? I mean, can you imagine how much money that would make? Like, it's a game that seems to be perfectly suited for playing in an online, persistent environment.
Right. In fact, Warcraft has now even added Pokemon.
I know. It's like, it's so amazing to me. Like, how do you, like, this company is inept, and yet they're reaping the benefits from an idea that wasn't even theirs. It's almost frustrating because I feel like maybe they'll learn something from this, but maybe not.
But I mean, they always seem to learn the wrong lessons. Like the same thing with the Wii. They're like, oh, we should put more gimmicks into our controllers. Yeah. And now it's going to be like, oh, we should have more gimmicky, like, augmented reality, but like not putting any effort into the gameplay.
Yeah. I wonder what the statistics are of people who bought a Wii and never bought anything to go with it but the Wii Sports game that came with it. I bet
that was definitely my parents. My parents bought a Wii.
was
Like
my parents
it surprised
too.
me, and then they just played Wii Sports with their friends for like a couple months.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I actually bought a couple of other games and then played them for 5 minutes and didn't enjoy them. But I did continue to go back to the Wii Sports because, I don't know, it's actually sort of fun in like a meditative Zen way. And also it's sort of a fun party game if you're going to have people over.
Yeah.
But actually strictly less fun than like Rock Band or something if you're going to talk about like accessories. I think that's an interesting, I mean, I don't know, like I just talked about how I don't like the like swiping on a screen mechanism, and I think that's kind of the same reason I don't like the wiggling a controller in the air mechanism, is that there's no tactile feedback. There's no like you're sending, I don't know, like you're sending a nerve signal, but you're not receiving a
like
tactile feedback.
As someone who plays games, here's a message to you game developers who obviously don't play games. Like a controller, like even like a Super Nintendo controller, when you're playing a game, like it's very easy to not realize you're using a controller. Like your brain like connects all the things your hands are doing to like what your character's doing. So you're just like mentally moving the character. Like you don't need like, in fact, it takes you out of the game to have to do weird physical actions like swipe and like look where you're swiping, or like move your arms around, or like run or whatever. Like that doesn't immerse you in the game. It takes you out of the game.
That Wii Zelda game, you'd be running around exploring, and then every time you had to fucking aim an arrow or slash at something in a particular direction that was terrible and unresponsive, it totally took you out of the game. It's not fun.
Yeah.
There's no need to change. I mean, I'm not saying that you should never try to innovate controllers, I guess, but like just realize that it needs to be more immersive and not less immersive.
Right. Like I think if I have like a game, sword extension in my hands and I'm looking around me surrounded by virtual reality enemies and I like slash through them and it actually connects with them, that's the level of like fidelity that you need for it to feel correct. But if I have like a little wand thing and I swipe the wand in the air laterally versus vertically, and a guy on a screen jumps in two different ways, that's in the uncanny valley of like how much tactile feedback I need from the system.
Yeah, but even the full like VR thing you're describing, I actually think wouldn't be good. Like because it just like with pretty much everything, you want to be able to like do as much with as simple of a thing as possible, right? Like a good like book will convey the message in as few words as possible, for instance. And it's kind of the same in video games. Like you don't want to have to do like you don't have to like literally become a ninja master to be a ninja master in a video game. You just have to kind of learn a pretty intuitive set of like 4 buttons, and then you can actually become the ninja master if your mind like connects to that right. And that's kind of what you want to do.
Yeah. Devin Faraci at Birth Movies Death wrote this great article this week in response to Pokemon Go. And his argument that he made was that as much as virtual reality stuff has improved in the past year with all these new systems that are prohibitively expensive, as much as that has taken steps and bounds, he sees the future in gaming as this augmented reality stuff, and not just in gaming, in life. And
right, me too.
I think Pokemon Go is one of the clearest indicators of that has some appeal to people. And there's a lot of cool ideas. I mean, like Google Glass tried it. I think it was a little early, but you take a system like this and improve upon it and build upon it. I think there's something there, and I think there's something there that is more enjoyable and more immersive than strapping a giant thing on your head and putting two wands in your hand.
I think you're right, although I'll hold off on saying that augmented reality is the next best thing, because I think it's still in the gimmick stage. Like the same with how popular like the Wii wand was. Like we were just talking about, like this is a pretty new thing we're dealing with, the augmented reality Pokemon right now, but it's actually pretty shit.
Yeah.
The
Well,
way it's implemented. Like most people appear to have just turned off that part of the game.
yeah. Well,
'Cause-
sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, I just wanted to mention Magic Leap because it's something that I'm obsessed with.
What is
And
that?
so that's this thing where it's like a secret Google project, or actually the company that makes it was bought by Google, and it's basically like the idea behind it is it sort of like shoots laser beams into your eyeball, but like it's not clear whether the final product is going to be glasses or like a thing that sits on your table. But the upshot is like it will persistently put objects in reality around you. So like potentially instead of having to wave your phone around like an idiot while you're walking around looking for Pokemon, you would just see the Pokemon around you, and they would and depending on how good they make it, the Pokemon might even be standing in places that make sense instead of like in the middle of a computer monitor. Um, so like that to me, I think is gonna be like I've tried Oculus Rift. I wasn't impressed because of the fact that it's all on the same focal length, and thus your brain is not at all convinced that you're in a reality. You're just like, oh, it's a screen in front of my eyes. And obviously, I've tried the phone augmented reality, and your brain absolutely doesn't believe that the Pokemon is actually there. But the Magic Leap, I think, like that coupled with this, if they make like a Magic Leap Pokemon, like then and you're walking around town and you're actually looking left and right and seeing Pokemon down the street, like that could be the type of thing that we're going to see in the future. And I think that would be way more game changing than anything we've seen up to this point. But again, like almost no one has seen this technology. It might not work the way they say it will. But
Yeah, I think that's going to have to be so far in the future because not only are they going to have the technology to like beam it into your eyes well, they also have to have the technology to like determine objects real good for like the Pokemon to like hide behind and so forth. And that's like super hard without like an array of cameras everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah, there's actually someone in the comments on that article I was talking to you guys about. Um, they they posted a video, and it's kind of like a future tech like horror story video about how augmented reality could get out of hand and be a nightmare. But the video is funny, and we'll post it in the show notes because I find it equally horrifying but also amazing that like there's a person walking down the street and like you say where you want to go and you look down and you see in front of you on the street a green line telling you where to go. Like instead of navigating by having to glance at your phone, you just look out and you see where you need to turn. Like you go to a grocery store and like you can link it up with your home and like see like what you need of. And like I think one of them was it was like using RFID, so if you threw something in your cart, it would automatically total how much your bill is going to be and have it like in the corner. There's all these really cool ideas and things that you can do with augmented reality, and we're getting kind of off topic here because I don't think Pokemon Go uses it in any kind of significant way. But I think I do think that we as gamers look at it and see, oh, there's a Pokemon standing there on my desk or something. That really doesn't look fake. But I think for the vast majority of users of this app, I think they really like it. The pictures that I've seen of people posting stuff, like there's all these people posting like of them on sports fields in stadiums that they're going to and all this other stuff. I think it's a draw for people. So
yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I feel like I've been ragging on it quite a bit, which may be a bit unfair because I'm someone who's sort of a junkie for technology, full stop. And like I've installed a ton of different like augmented reality apps on my phone just because I think it's a fun idea. And I usually don't bother playing with them beyond like 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of neat that you can do that. But this is the first thing like this, I think, where you sort of find something and then you hold up your phone and there it is.
yeah.
Like I played augmented reality games where there's like a fake map of your city, and those are kind of cool because you're like walking around and capturing checkpoints in your city, but there's no camera involvement, and having kind of the mixture of the map and the camera involvement is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. It's just I'd stand by my statement that I don't know if it has that kind of staying power. We'll see.
Yeah. I just think it's exciting. I think augmented reality is what I'm most excited about that this game does, and that this game kind of proof of concepts, for lack of a better phrase.
Right.
And I think this could get, as technology improves and as they figure out ways to make it better, that this could get really cool. Both for video games and just for life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually more excited about the life augmentation than the game augmentation in terms of this technology. Like there's like just what you were saying with like, you know, being able to go through a supermarket and have your groceries tallied automatically or things like that. I mean, that's pretty cool. Or like you walk into a crowd and like there's little arrows above all your friends or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can finally put an LFG logo over my head. Walking around.
Been waiting for your entire life.
Yeah, totally.
That'd be good.
All right, cool. Do we have anything else? Thanks for calling out the reference, Michael.
I bet we'll do that.
Do we have anything else Pokemon related that we wanted to talk about? I think I hit all my points that augmented reality is cool, Nintendo is stupid, this game is okay. And it's weird that Pokemon is so popular when it was a thing that we got made fun of for doing.
I mean, I guess we could talk about why we think the original one is popular.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I mean, I think collecting things is cool, and fighting the things that you collect are cool, and there's a certain amount of draw to that.
Yeah, it reminds me. I mean, it's funny. I have a lifelong habit of like watching people play games, which started when I would watch my brother play games, and like it kind of reminds me of the same reason why people love the like Final Fantasy games, where there's like a map that you run around on, and then you kind of go down into other areas, and you're trolling for like bosses, and you know you fight or like you're just trying to fight monsters and gain experience. That's already actually kind of addictive and appealing. It's just the idea of like, I'm going to wander around to find monsters to fight and get experience. You see that in like a million games. What Pokemon adds is, no, I'm not just going to fight monsters to gain experience. I'm going to fight monsters to capture the monsters, and then train the monsters to fight other monsters. And it's just it's this really brilliant little twist on that formula. And so it's like it's taking an already really good formula and making it, like you said, adding the collection aspect.
I think a lot of it is like the customization too, because what separates it from other RPGs is like you usually have like maybe 6 or 7 playable characters to choose from, but here you have like 151, and so you can kind of build like your own personally expressive team, if you will, which I think is actually an important part of it that you might not like recognize. And you can even like you tune the move lists and stuff of your Pokemon, and people like customizability, both in terms of like mechanics if you're a gamer, but also in terms of aesthetics, like for basically everyone. Like a lot of these free to play games, which the original Pokemon wasn't, but like make all of their money in transactions for like cosmetic upgrades, right? Like new skins for your characters and stuff. So I think that's part of the appeal of Pokemon, and maybe why like the first one was like so incredibly popular, and then the design of the Pokemon got a little bit lazy with some of them.
It got so bad. It got so bad.
Yeah.
I think I was looking up them one day, and there's a one in the newest set that's just like a key ring, and that's a Pokemon. Like, I understand there's like 1,000 now, and you get to a point where what else can we do? But a key ring. What is that?
Yeah, they're just looking around their office and naming things.
Lampmon.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder when in the creation cycle for the cartoon that someone made the choice that, hey, they should just say their own name when they talk. I wonder who did that.
Yeah. Did they do that in the game? I can't remember now.
No, because I mean it was a Game Boy game, so they just made weird noises.
I know they didn't have sound, but they had like
they just had weird cries.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they had like little cries and stuff. Yeah, it is weird whoever chose to do that, but it has become pretty iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone knows Pikachu. People that have never played any of these games know Pikachu.
Yeah. And Hodor, come on.
Yeah. Stupid Hodor.
God damn it.
Matt Michael's in the middle of watching season 6 of Game of Thrones.
Oh,
I was
I see.
amazed to learn that there is now a time travel paradox in Game of Thrones.
yeah, that's. And
I think
I don't know if we've talked about this, but I'm basically just like, oh, this makes me excited about the books to see how this really happened, because this is bullshit.
I think we spent a lot of time on Game of Thrones, so I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole.
Move along.
Yeah. Michael, did you ever play that Ni no Kuni game?
What?
It's a game called Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch.
Are you saying real words right now?
Yeah, I am.
No, I haven't played it.
So it's an RPG. It came out on PS3, and I think they did a remastered version for PS4. So you should look for it. It's basically Pokemon. Like it's Pokemon done in 3 dimensions with the Studio Ghibli kind of animation style.
Oh, right.
It's really good. It's really well done. They kind of updated the combat. It's not turn-based. It's more like, you remember the Grandia games where your team was like on the field, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like that, but it ticks all the same Pokemon collecting boxes. I haven't been able to get into a JRPG in basically forever. Since I became an adult, I just can't do them anymore. But that game I absolutely loved. So
The JRPGs have not evolved like at all.
no, they're terrible. And they don't know what to do. It's like they're just treading water trying to figure out what to do. Like they've tried like inventing new battle systems and making the battle more active, and
It's all the story, I think, though. I mean,
yeah,
the
that's
stories
true.
are just still so vanilla, whereas the Western ones like have all of these deep like anti-heroes and like crazy like choice-based twists and stuff. And the Western RPGs are getting really, really good.
I agree. But you should check that one. That is a good one. You should check it out.
I'm
liked the
actually
story.
surprised there haven't been like a load more Pokemon clones, because it's a pretty easy idea to rip off.
Yeah. Does Monster Hunter count as kind of one? I've never played that game, but it's huge in Japan. I don't even know. That might have been before Pokemon. I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the obvious ripoff of Digimon, which still actually maintained like some amount of popularity, but
Somehow,
yeah,
they weren't
it always
even-
seemed like such a blatant ripoff.
they weren't even trying to hide it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Pokemon. For those of you who have never played the game, I hope we gave you enough of an explanation on what it was. If you want to try out the game, go for it.
Yeah, give it your Google credentials, allow it to access your full Google account, download all of your emails.
That's insane. They need to fix that as soon as
I think
possible.
I've read that there was some exaggeration there, but I don't want to spread misinformation, so I'll just shut my mouth.
Google has confirmed that they haven't, that the company hasn't used any of that information, and that it was just kind of like an oversight on all they really wanted was your Google account, so you could like log in with it or whatever.
Yeah, but I confirmed, and mine did. I corrected mine, and it did have full access.
Okay, well,
so yeah, for those
too.
out there that don't know what we're talking about, in order to sign up to play this game, you have to enter your Google credentials. And for whatever reason, when the developers were setting up the game, they didn't check the right box and allowed the game to have full access to your Gmail account, which means every single one of your emails, everything that you have connected through Google, which for a lot of people is just about everything. So.
Right.
That's crazy. If this
Yeah,
company
that kind of shouldn't even be an option for any app.
Especially in like, it shouldn't be an option without notifying you first. Like it should have to say, because I didn't get any notification like
Really?
like this app is requesting full access to Google. Like that should be a pop-up or something.
That definitely should be, because they have that in the Google Play Store usually. They're like, this app requires these permissions.
Right. But I mean, like I know they've said that this company hasn't used any of that wrong, but like if this company got hacked, you're screwed.
Right, and if I was a hacker, this would be like,
and just the fact that any company could put this in one of their apps and it wouldn't notify you is pretty
that's a big problem. Yeah. But yeah, that's Pokemon Go. Go catch them all. I'm going to New York City tomorrow, and I'm gonna see if I can catch anything. I really am curious about how the regional stuff works, because I have heard like you cannot catch them all without traveling the world.
Yeah, and that's cool.
Yeah, I think that is fun. I bet there's going to be people who do that who are like, I caught them all. and then there'll be minor internet celebrities for 10 minutes.
Yeah, the latest news is that someone did find the legendary birds code in the game, so they do exist. I don't think anyone's found them yet, but they do exist.
Cool.
I hope there's one like on top of Mount Everest.
Yeah, right.
Can you
That would
imagine?
It's got to be the ice bird.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
what's
that
its
would be
name?
great.
That'd be awesome. And then there's another one in the middle of a volcano.
Okay, that's just a little ridiculous.
I mean, you could totally do like a fun like code thing with augmented reality. It's just
Yeah.
put not necessarily put the mystical bird somewhere. Put clues that then lead you to other parts of the world. Anyways,
What if you could only get one of the Pokemon, like a super rare one in like North Korea?
That's where Mewtwo is.
Yeah.
In the Central
This is what
Palace
finally-
in North Korea.
A sudden
what finally
influx of
clicks.
North Korean tourists.
right. Finally destabilizes North Korea.
All because of the Pokemon app.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Before we conclude for the week, let's do what we've been watching or playing or doing. Michael, you want to go first?
I'll go first. I played a couple days ago the game Life is Strange, which is like a story-based game for PC and PS4 and probably Xbox One. And I mention it because it's like the most beautiful example of video games as art that I've ever seen. Like everything is kind of like directed. There's like beautiful establishing shots at the beginning of each chapter. There's kind of like a 5-episode structure, and like a well thought out and chosen like soundtrack of like folk indie guitar music that sets the perfect tone for the things that are going on. It's got awesome characters that are really well developed, and they use the fact that you can like make choices in the game to do that. So it's just really amazing, and it's kind of like gives me hope for there being more super artistic video games.
Yeah, I've played this game, and I completely agree with you. My girlfriend does not play video games, except for Pokemon Go now. But I bought this one and was playing it with her sitting down, and she ended up taking over the controller, and she played this thing the whole way through. And she doesn't finish games. She doesn't like games. So for this to have drawn her attention and made her enjoy it so much, it had to have been incredible, and it really was.
Yeah, it was really good, and it depressed me for like 2 days after I beat it. It was just like so impactful.
That's good art right there.
Cool. I've never heard of this. I'm Wikipediaing it as we speak. It looks kind of awesome.
It really is. It's
you need to play it to really like get the effect, but yeah, it was really well done.
Cool. Matt, how about you?
I watched a movie called Stay a few days ago, and it was interesting because it just hit me in a unique way. And what I kind of had to say about it, walking out of it or rolling out of it, since I was on the couch, was that like it came just this close to being like 12 Monkeys level awesome, except that it didn't really make sense. So like imagine if 12 Monkeys ended with like a twist that made the whole thing not make sense. It would sort of ruin 12 Monkeys, even though everything that came before it was great. So like this movie was like really incredibly interestingly shot. It had these really cool transitions that I have no idea how they did them. I assume it was with CG. But like it would, the camera would always like fix on something in the scene, and then that thing would sort of morph into a different object in the next scene, but not morph in like a cheesy way. It would just sort of, I don't know how to express it. It was, I've never seen anything like it in a film, honestly. It was really cool. It had Ewan McGregor and Ryan Gosling, who were both great in the movie. They're both younger. It's sort of an older movie, and it's it was just really fun and interesting to watch, and you're sort of really caught up in the mystery of it. And the only tragedy of it is that it ends up not really making sense, and so there's not really payoff for all the mystery. But I was like, you know what, this time I'm not going to let that thoroughly ruin this experience for me, because there was so much good about this. So I would actually recommend it, as long as you go into it sort of knowing that nothing ever quite makes sense, like the mysteries that they're throwing at you are never quite going to be resolved to your satisfaction, but maybe still try to enjoy the ride.
Huh, that's cool. I've actually never heard of that movie at all.
I think it did super badly.
It's funny that you talk, like, before we started recording, Michael and I were talking about how so many stories just can't stick the landing. And it's funny that you've talked about that couldn't do it. Michael didn't mention it, but Life is Strange, as wonderful as it is, kind of messes up its landing too. And I think that's something I see again and again in stories, that they set up these great concepts and they just can't finish on it.
Especially indie movies. Like when I was living in Bristol, there was an independent movie theater really close to my house. So I saw a lot, and they almost all had like really cool ideas, which is like what inspired people to like make them, because you're not going to make a load of money off an indie movie. But like they never came together in the end for the most part. Or it was rare that they did. So I think it's like hard to stick an ending, but it's just so important.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. The conceit of everything that you're trying to do. It's the most important part. Exactly.
This is why Scott's already rolling his eyes. This is why he can't shut up about the web serial Worm, because it's like, I'm just like, no, look, it's like a perfect ending, guys. And I don't even know if Michael agrees with me about this.
I don't. I hated the ending, but
yeah, well, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I'm gonna read it one day. I promise.
Yeah,
it's real long.
Yeah, that's it.
I read it like, I don't know. I read it at like a time where I had a lot of time. I know I read a lot of it on 13-hour plane rides. But like, yeah, I don't know. I felt like it derailed before the ending, to be honest. But I do agree it was like really captivating for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna. First of all, I don't want to go on a complete tangent, but there's definitely parts of Worm that can be cut out. I agree with that. There's definitely parts that can be cut out. I thought the final arc was like, he had planted all of these things throughout the story. None of this is coming out of left field, although you are surprised by how things turn. And then it all resolves like perfectly in sync with how you need the characters' individual arcs to resolve. And like, that's just, I don't know, that's what I aspire to as like a writer, is like that level of like having everything tied up in a way that is satisfying, but also surprising.
You have to like remember to tie up everything too, because like in the Life is Strange example, like you have all these interactions with this range of characters, and like all you kind of need to do in the ending is like show how your actions like affected those characters. Like at minimum, like if you're starting like a minor story with like a side character, like you need to finish it before the ending, or like at the ending.
Yeah, Lost.
Yeah, Lost.
Right. Can we make it
nothing?
Can we make it a goal to just insult Lost in every episode of this podcast in some way or another? I would love to.
Lost does everything wrong, so we should be able to fit it in.
Yeah,
it definitely does the ending wrong. I think the reason that it makes us so upset is because it did a lot of things right early.
Okay, yes, you're right.
That's
you're
fair.
right.
You're right.
That's what's angering.
Okay, and that's what's angering about like all the like it seems, because I ranted to Scott about Life is Strange for a little while, I think, but like the reason I hate the ending so much is because I loved the rest of it so much.
Yeah,
right.
And anything that you rant about that much is got to be something similar.
Yeah, everyone ragging on me about my opinions on Game of Thrones. The reason I am mad about it is because I loved the rest of it so much. Game
of Thrones is a great example. But like, you watch like the Vampire Diaries and you're like, I don't care that this ending sucks.
Yeah.
Right. This never spoke to me.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
So the stuff I watched really quickly, I saw The Secret Life of Pets last week. which is the new movie from Illumination, who's the guys who do the Minions movies. It was okay. I think, we're very used to kind of like a Pixar-esque animated movie where while it's meant for kids, it has that emotional through line that adults can latch onto. This movie didn't have that. This was a movie meant for kids, and I was not in any part of the target demographic of it, so while there were funny parts, most of it was just kind of stupid poop humor that didn't really make me laugh. I don't think it's funny when I see a bunny get so scared that little pellets of poop falls out of him. But clearly Michael does.
It's just a funny image.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just like I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. It was Toy Story with pets is basically what it was, and that's fine. Kids really seem to like it. It's performing really well at the box office, so good. I mean, I recognize that not every film is built to be catered towards my sensibilities, so it's not a terrible movie.
Yeah.
I'd give it a B if I was rating it.
Sorry, this reminds me of we were watching Monsters Inc. a couple of days ago, and there's the part where Mike Wazowski slams his head in a door so that he can make the kid laugh, and at exactly the moment the kid starts laughing, my son starts laughing in like exactly the same way, and he's 2, and it was really funny because it's like, yep, that Pixar has their humor dialed in precisely.
Yep.
So anyway.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about real quickly is season 4 of Orange is the New Black, because I finished that last week.
Oh, I finished that.
I talked, I think, well, my sister Melissa wrote a review last year of season 3, and she talked about how there were a lot of interesting parts that she liked of it, but she didn't like the season as a whole, and I kind of echoed that opinion. I thought that the concept started to feel a little bit stale, but I loved season 4. I really
I
loved
thought it was a lot better than season 3.
If there was the ship was sailing in the wrong direction, they completely righted it. I loved all the character interactions. I don't want to spoil anything, but the end of the season is tragic and wonderfully done, and manages to say everything about the prison system, but also the problems that we're having as a country at a whole at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just wonderful and perfectly done, and I love it. I'm in on this show so much.
I think the problem with season 3 is that parts of it started to get kind of cartoonish, and like you didn't feel any tension in the prison anymore. It was just kind of like almost like happy-go-lucky and like, oh, you love all the prisoners now because you know them, but they've reestablished the kind of like seriousness of prison this season while still having like lovable character interactions.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things to me that I think maybe this show will be remembered for more than anything else is their ability to take characters that you've completely written off and marked as a scumbag and a terrible person, and make you see them in a new light and appreciate them differently. I mean, they've been doing it since the beginning, and that's kind of the theme of the show, right? I mean, we make assumptions about who criminals and prisoners are, and we write them off out of society, but they're human beings, and they have complications, and they have issues they're working on, and they have good qualities too. And I think the show, like, I think the I can't remember the guard's name, but the guard that raped the girl last season, like, they managed to paint him in an interesting light and made him kind of more of a sympathetic character, while also recognizing that he has some deep-seated issues in him.
I mean, all of the characters, like, shallowly explained, are unlikable and have huge flaws. But you're right. The good part of the show is that everyone has a human side,
and that's really hard to do. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
Can you imagine Game of Thrones trying to paint Ramsay in a favorable light? I mean, I don't think they could do it.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but the good part about the books is exactly this, that like people who you think are scumbags like Jaime Lannister, it then reveals to you that they're human and have good qualities and makes you sympathize with them. But that's why I've consistently not liked the show as much, is because I don't think it's done that.
Yeah, well, I think it's so much harder to do that in television, which is why Orange is the New Black pulling it off is wonderful. I think you're right. Jamie in the books was painted as a scumbag that you eventually got to see things from his point of view and you understood him as a character. I think in the show they always kind of made him seem like a sympathetic character. Even right after he pushed a little boy out the window, they were immediately setting him up as a character who's more complicated and not just one note. So his turn is more predictable, I guess. I don't know, like even Healy in this episode, in this season of Orange is the New Black, like I hated that guy after last season, and the show spends enough time with him that you learn like who he is and why he's the way he is, and I don't know, it's just like you understand these characters.
Right. Yeah. Like I've always also like emotionally hated Healy, but also I thought he's a great character because you totally get him, and he does that whole thing where he'll like put a lot of effort into doing something that he thinks will help a lot of people and then be disappointed because like no one appreciates it enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's really, they're all like exaggerated versions of feelings that like all people have.
Yeah. I will go ahead and say it. I think this show does the flashback character development better than Lost ever did.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think you're right, and in a whole, especially in terms of having it all come together with the end of the character arc.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in season 1 of Lost, I thought they were great flashbacks, but and they had like little endings, but then they just like kept going with it, and then the characters all morphed and turned into weird abominations who like knocked each other out with pots for no reason whenever they were walking in the jungle together.
Yeah, flanderization effect.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Orange is the New Black. That's why I'm being silent here.
That's understandable. I really think it's worth it.
Yeah, you should watch it.
I've never actually had it like pitched to me in a way that made it seem appealing. I mean, like I know hearing lots of people who I trust saying that it's great should make it appealing to me, but I'm just like,
it's a great
not seeing any
character-driven show, and I know you like character-driven things, and it's very much that.
And it's characters that we've really never seen on television before. Like,
yeah, I love that they're like, none of them are made up to be like sexy.
Yeah. I love that the show has moved away from Piper as the main character too, because I understand that she was the hook to get you into the show, but the show is so much more fascinating when it focuses on these other infinitely more interesting characters.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I would give it a shot, Matt. If you don't like the first season, then I would stop. But I think
I hope the show brings some attention to like our prison system as well. That's another thing I think might potentially be like a really great thing about the show.
I mean, I think that. Oh, you mean like actually have a result outside the?
Yeah, like because right now, people are just like, well, they're prisoners. Of course, they should be like put in solitary and like whatever. They're terrible people. Why should I care about them?
Right.
So I hope it makes people be like, we should think about this, because like it's kind of like political suicide, or it has been in the recent past, to like try to reform prisons, because it's like that can't be the thing that your platform is known for. It'll just be like, I don't care. But hopefully it can be now.
I don't know how you look at the show and then come out saying that for-profit prisons are a good thing. I mean, I know it's over dramatized to force that effect, but I mean, anything that profits in the
it's hard to it's hard to over dramatize how horrible our prison system is. But,
that's true.
But I haven't seen the show, so maybe it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just accelerates, and I mean, I don't think any one prison is as bad as this prison. It takes the problem that hundreds of prisoners across the country has and puts it all into one for our benefit.
I don't know. I mean, I can easily imagine actual prisons being worse.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been in one, so I don't know. But, I mean, just, like, if the whole point of prison is to rehabilitate criminals, then running a prison for profit seems contrary to that entire thing, because your business benefits the more prisoners you have.
Unfortunately, that's like not the attitude of our country at all, and I don't think it ever has been. I think our mindset toward prison has been like punishment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Well, no, I
which
think,
is not the case in European countries where they have like a couple year prison sentences.
See,
But
I
like
think,
when you do things like 15-year prison sentences, it's like
yeah, I mean, I think yes and no. I think it's the mindset that we advertise. I mean, we call these correctional facilities. Like we like to throw out this mindset, but I think you're absolutely right. The deep seated underbelly of thought is that we want these people out of our lives, and we throw them in a cell and throw away the key. But I would love to talk more about that second to last episode, but I don't want to spoil it for people. There's so
Next
much
week
going
we'll
on there.
discuss the American prison system. Orange
All
is
right.
the New Black.
So yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Next week, Matt, Kryptonian Collection number 3.
All right.
So we will be discussing Silence of the Lambs. My friend Chad is bringing that movie to nominate, so it'll be you, me, and Adrian, who successfully got in his movie last week, and we will discuss that movie and see if it is good enough to enter the Kryptonian Collection.
Trivia
Sounds
fact
fun.
about Silence of the Lambs. It was the last movie that had got both the Best Actor and Best Actress awards at the Oscars.
I think it was one of the few that got like all the big ones, right? Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, Best Picture.
Yeah, I might have gotten those. But this was a trivia question on trivia night a couple days ago, so I thought it'd be cool and bring it up.
Did you get it right?
I didn't get it right. No,
Damn it, Michael.
I couldn't think of it. I mean, it's like 1990. What movie? 1991. The only thing I could think of was like Unforgiven, or maybe like A River Runs Through It or something. But those weren't right.
All right. I would have gotten it right. I'm disappointed.
Would you?
I would have. Okay, so Matt, now that you're back, where can you be found on the internet?
The Twitter on @MoreGenOmail.
All right. And I can also be found on Twitter on @ScottDaly85. That's DALY. You can also find our website Twitter @DailyPlanetFilms. You can see all of our writing at dailyplanetfilms.com, and you can support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/dailyplanetfilms. Please give $1 a month or anything else you can afford, and that will help us continue to make more amazing content. Matt, I don't want to ever put ads on this podcast, so
Yeah.
It would be great if we could just be supported totally by patrons. It'd be great.
Yeah.
And we're working on like reward systems and all that. I know that's something that a lot of the other ones have, and milestone goals and all that. That's all being worked on. But
yeah,
thank you as always, everyone, for your support. Michael, thank you for coming and talking about Pokemon with us.
You're welcome.
And Matt, it's really good to have you back, sir.
Yes, well, it's really good to be back. I look forward to this every single week, and I hope to continue doing it.
Pending any recording audio disasters every single week.
Right. Yes.
And on that note, we will see you next week.